Hi, welcome back. Thanks for watching. In the last video, we had gone over, in the last, I guess, couple of videos, we had kind of been introducing the eighth note. Well, that's weird. It's never done that before. So the eighth note looks just like a quarter note, except it's got a flag on it. And as we learned in the last video, you can fit two of these eighth notes into one quarter note. And one of the things I just want to touch on very quickly, this probably won't end up being a very long video, but I want to do a little bit of a video on beaming notes. So I'm going to write down that. Beaming notes. So the point of beaming notes together is when we have, in the last video we had been talking about flags. The last video had kind of been all about these flags that we had on these notes. And one of the things that makes music a bit easier to read and a bit more presentable on the page is we can beam notes together. So we've got two, for instance, we've got two eighth notes up here. That are just written with flags, and you will occasionally see this. You will occasionally see two eighth notes together, written just like they're written right here, just with the flags. But more often, if you have two eighth notes like this in a measure, they're just right next to each other, and they're kind of, that's strange. Okay, there we go. So if we have two eighth notes like that, they're just written right next to each other. And then, also this one, it's actually set up a couple of ground rules on this. So let's also say that this eighth note right here is on a downbeat. And then this eighth note would be on an upbeat. So let's kind of, I guess, say that that's what's going on in this kind of example measure. And with that, what you would see in the way you would write this is instead of having two flags on a note, you would put a beam over top of these notes. And a beam just looks like that. And this is completely equivalent. So it's the same thing. It equals having two eighth notes written like that. It's just a little bit easier to read, particularly if you're reading a piece of music that's going pretty fast and you've just got to be able to make sense of these notes pretty quickly. This looks a bit more presentable, and it's a bit easier as well to tell what's on a downbeat and what's on an upbeat when you beam stuff like this. So anyway, let me actually just write kind of a quick example. And I'll just write something that'll a measure of music that'll be I'll just write kind of the same measure twice, I guess. And one will be without the beams and one will be with. So let's say we've got quarter note, then we've got two eighth notes just with flags like that. And let's say also, I'm going to just write that we're in 4/4. So quarter note, and then let's say we have a half note. So then this would look like, and actually let me make this example 2 measures long. Because you can have beams a couple of different ways. And let's say we actually start this measure out with 4 eighth notes, like that. And then we actually have a quarter note, and then 2 more eighth notes. And then that's the end. So how would we write this, but with beaming our notes together? And I'll do this in yellow down here. Well, the way we would do it, and let's say you can put note beams, particularly with eighth notes. I guess, most of the time, especially if you're in 4/4 time, you would, I don't want to say all the time you would beam only together two notes. You would actually, I think the way a lot of notation programs are set up right now, you automatically beam together four eighth notes. So I might be getting a bit ahead of myself. Let me just do this first measure. So we've got a quarter note, which don't have to worry about any beams there because we don't have any flags. We've just got a stem. So quarter note. Then we've got two eighth notes. So we would just write it like that. We would write it with a beam instead of these flags. So beam like that. Just like that. And that is completely equivalent. You would play it the same exact way. And then after that, we don't have to worry about any beams because we just have a half note like that. And then that's the end of our measure. And next, we've got four eighth notes in a row right now. And there are really two different ways you could write this. And I'll write this kind of, I'll write, the first way in yellow. And this is probably the way you would most often see this. I'll just write it right here. You would just see 1, 2, 3, 4 eighth notes, and just a beam over all of them like that. And that is the way, I know that's the way notation program I use most often, or the notation program I use all the time is Sibelius. And that's out of the box, that's the way Sibelius will write eighth notes in 4/4 time. If you have 4 eighth notes all together, Sibelius will beam together 4 eighth notes. So it won't break it up 2 and 2. And I'll write below that how another way that you might see this written, and I don't know if another big name notation program would be Finale. And I don't know if they do it. I actually don't think they do. I think they all notation programs out of the box are going to group together eighth notes like this. They're going to put 4 of them right together. So, but another way that you might see this written in music, don't do that. Another way that you might see this written is 1, 2, 3, 4, and you might just see, that's exactly not what I wanted to do. You might just see these beam together in groups of 2, like that. And this might even be for your preferences, and this is, if you're writing your music, it can be entirely up to you how you write this. And generally, you want to write this in a way that will be most easily understood. And most of the time, I actually think that kind of this second method in green is probably a little bit better understood, just because they're easily broken up into beats, and you can very obviously tell that this is on a downbeat, and this is on an upbeat, and this is on a downbeat, and this is on an upbeat. And not to say that you can't tell that from this top example from yellow, but it's just a bit more clear here on the bottom in green. So those are kind of the two options for writing together 4 quarter notes all in a line. And anyway, I'll keep going in yellow on this. So then next in this measure, we've just got a quarter note. And then we've got 2 eighth notes. And we already know what that looks like because we did it back here. So those 2 eighth notes, and we've got a downbeat. That happens on beat 4. And an upbeat. It happens on the end of 4. We would just beam those together. And we're done. So that is a little bit on beaming. In the next video, we're actually going to take this same exact example and we're going to put beat numbers under it. So hope you found that a little bit. Hope you found that a bit informative, and I'll see you in the next video.